to tout the best seasonings. Pastor, look, this guy's a friend of mine. His name is Bob Midget, and he owns a company called BJ's Barbecue and Sauces. You can reach him at bjsbarbecueandsauces.com. And I know you can cook now. You know Bob. Of course,
I
you know
know.
Bob.
Yeah, I
You know
know.
Bob's living in Georgia now, and he's opened up a company. Man, I've tried his dry rub. I've tried his barbecue sauce. It is off the hook.
Well, I remember when he's out there. In
Exactly.
Raleigh.
Bob's Country
Yeah,
Barbecue.
yeah.
Well, now he's showing you why his barbecue was so good because of the sauces and the dry rubs that he have on it. I use it every day.
Okay.
I put his dry rub on my eggs.
Mm.
That's how good it is.
Oh, that must be really good.
You remember Campbell's soup? Remember
Yeah.
the commercial?
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Yeah.
It is absolutely incredible. I need you to go to bjbarbecueandsauces.com and order a box set of everything. He has hot sauce, he has barbecue sauce, he has dry rub. I'm telling you, he has mild sauce, he has hot sauce. All of it is delectable. It is bellissimo.
Mm.
And I want you to go to bjbarbecueandsauces.com. Again, bjbarbecueandsauces.com and at least order that barbecue and that dry rub. I'm telling you, you will throw all the rest of your seasonings away because it covers it all. I'm telling you the truth. bjbarbecueandsauces.com. Go to it right now, order it, and get the best seasonings that you've ever tasted in your life. Because I tell you, it's good.
And welcome to another edition of Josh Talk Sports. This is episode 3, and I'm glad for y'all to be joining me on this evening, wherever you may be, however you may be checking me out on today. Definitely appreciate it, no matter where you are, man. And I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about in a short amount of time. Not going to be on too crazy long, but I do want y'all to come on in the building. I see a lot of y'all starting to join in already. We're going to be on Twitter, Facebook, also on YouTube, Talkback Live Network on YouTube. We can catch all of our different shows and different things that we do on the network. So, once again, I'm your host, Josh Midget. If you want to join the conversation, you can. 706-250-6252. Once again, 706-250-6252. And you can come on in and join me on tonight. How y'all doing out there? How y'all doing? Y'all let me know in the comments below as well. I'll even put some on the screen as well as the comments continue to come in. But so it's been interesting last few days as it pertains, that is, to the world of sports, especially since I was last live on here. So you got NBA free agency going on, hot and heavy, right? You got all these different things happening. We had the draft. We got free agency that's happening right now. Some big moves have already been made. I definitely want to get you guys' thoughts on that. And a little bit later, I want to talk about a team in particular because you got one of the things, and this is a big topic of conversation on a lot of social media as well. Even seeing tonight, man, the different discourse going on back and forth about this particular thing. And it does pertain to the Memphis Grizzlies. You've seen the local and the national people talking about this. And it's the fact that are the Grizzlies doing enough to make themselves a championship contender or not? And it seems like a lot of the fan base is in a worrisome mode, I guess you can say, when it comes to the Grizzlies. And you see all these other teams making moves, some of the teams that I'm about to talk about here. Hey, it makes you almost wonder, are we doing enough? Because some of those moves, there we go. just taking a little look at it, there you got the New York Knicks and the moves they made in regards to getting Mikal Bridges and reuniting this core group of guys with Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges, bringing him on to continue the Villanova movement that the Knicks have going right now. You also got Victor Wembanyama teaming up with CP3, Chris Paul, in San Antonio. Chris Paul signing a one-year deal to join the Spurs. That was a bit of a surprise, at least to me, when it comes to that. So is that a move to take note of? You know, the Spurs have been kind of in a rebuilding mode. I'm sure they still are as of right now, but it looks like they're trying to go for broke a little bit more. There's rumors about the Spurs being involved in the Lauri Markkanen sweepstakes, trying to trade for him. The Grizzlies have been rumored to be feigning some interest when it comes to Lauri Markkanen, as well as some other teams, the Golden State Warriors as well. Are the Spurs trying to bring their way up back to relevancy? And drafting Wembanyama already put them into relevancy to some degree, but are they trying to take that next step now? I think Popovich is sick of being one of those young teams that is looking to rebuild. I think he's trying to get the Spurs back to the days of old and actually winning games and going to the playoffs. So what do y'all think about that? Another one, and this was probably the biggest one, depending on who you talk to, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers. Getting Paul George and signing him to that huge deal, where now you got another quote-unquote big three, if you want to call him that. Joel Embiid, constant MVP candidate, one of the best players in basketball. Tyrese Maxey, who's a guy that's turned into one of the best scorers and young stars in the league, had a big breakout performance in the playoffs, even though they lost to, I believe it was the Knicks. But Maxey had some huge games to carry them through. And now Paul George, is he that wing scorer or that wing player that the Philadelphia 76ers have needed over the years? Because we know Paul George kind of bouncing around here and there. Is this finally the place where he wins a ring? Talk about Indiana. Then you talk about going to OKC with Russell Westbrook. Then you talk about going to where he was with the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. That situation didn't quite work out. And now he's a Philadelphia 76er signing for a huge contract there. How's that going to work in the East? Are they the immediate threat for the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference? Does this make them the second best team? Does they leapfrog the team I was talking about, the New York Knicks and the Miami Heats of the world and the Milwaukee Bucks, with Giannis still being there and Damian Lillard still being there? Are they the new number two in the Eastern Conference to the Boston Celtics? Y'all let me know what you think, man. These are just some of the moves that have been going on in the NBA. Of course, you got Klay Thompson, who longtime member of the Big Four in Golden State, won multiple championships there. He left to go to Dallas. He's now a Dallas Maverick. Who would have thought Klay Thompson leaving the Warriors? Even though, to me, the writing's kind of been on the wall for the last year. It seems like they broke down in communication and negotiations. It seems like that relationship started to sour a little bit when it comes to that. So he is now a Dallas Maverick, a Dallas team that was just in the NBA Finals and lost to Boston. Does this strengthen what Dallas was clearly lacking when they played against Boston and lost in the finals? So much going on in the NBA. Y'all give me your thoughts on that. Once again, phone number to call 706-250-6252. I see several comments starting to come in as well, but we also got the phone number if you want to jump in and talk with me on tonight. This is Josh Talk Sports, episode 3 of the podcast, the live podcast show. I appreciate everybody that's watching once again via Twitter, via Facebook, via Talkback Live Network's YouTube page at Talkback Live Network. If you haven't subscribed already, check us out on there. Let me read what Greg had to say here. Greg said Pop is only going to be around 2 to 3 more years. So, yeah, he's trying to get there now. Yeah, I agree with that. If you think about it, man, like Popovich, you almost forget that he's still coaching. You know what I mean? He's a legendary coach, great figure in the league, all of that stuff. But you almost forget he's in the league because the Spurs have been so irrelevant over the past several years. But since they drafted Victor Wembanyama, the 7+ foot phenom, who's clearly going to be a star for them going forward, now they're looking to add more pieces around him. I think they got a decent young team now, but they seem like they're looking to hit that home run, try to get another big-time player in that can fit next to Wembanyama. And I honestly think, despite Chris Paul not being what he was, I think he's a good addition, a good veteran to have and aid in the growth of Wembanyama, a good vet, a good point guard to help lead everybody else they got there. Devin Vassell, some of those other guys they got, I think they have a pretty good team as far as young players, but those are also can be called assets that they can trade to get more. So that's one of those things too. But one of the reasons I bring all this up, you see all these teams making moves. The Lakers are evidently interested in every player in the league. If you watch a lot of these Wojnarowski rumors that are floating around, and they seem they can't sign anybody other than LeBron's son. And them drafting well as well with Dalton Connect out of the University of Tennessee. I actually think that was a good pick. But all that being said, when you think about all these moves that these teams are making, you look at how Dallas made it to the NBA Finals. They're in the same division with the Memphis Grizzlies. San Antonio trying to come up, same division with the Grizzlies. The Houston Rockets out there trying to make big moves and improve their chances, get back in the race. You got Sacramento. You got the Lakers. You got the Denver Nuggets, the defending champions until this year, now that Boston won the title. But a Nuggets team that's still there and still a force to be reckoned with as long as they have Nikola Jokic. Then you talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves coming up in the Western Conference. All these other teams making moves. The Oklahoma City Thunder. How can I forget about the Thunder? A guy who I think should have been MVP this year is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading that team. The Jalen Williams emerging as a big-time threat. The depth that this team, Oklahoma City team, has, with guys that most of the NBA and casual fans and fans of the league don't even know who these guys are. We talk about Hassan Wallace coming off the bench or some of these other moves, the Chet Holmgren and things like that. Then they go and sign Isaiah Hartenstein to come in and be their center. They are really going to be a top team in the West going into next year. And the reason I bring all that up is because it's really sparked a conversation about the Grizzlies, the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies, before this past year, were a team that was one of the top 5 teams in the Western Conference pretty consistently. Last year, the year before this past year, the Grizzlies were number 2 in the Western Conference and got knocked out of the playoffs by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Before that, they were a top team making it to the second round and being taken out by then a team that went on to win the finals, the Golden State Warriors, after having a great series with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before that, the Grizz started out going into the play-in tournament, winning the play-in by beating the Warriors, getting in the playoffs, stuff like that. So you think of all those things, the Grizz being a pretty consistent Western Conference threat. But a lot of fans, after last year's debacle of a season, with all the injuries, with Ja coming back, getting hurt, with Desmond Bane getting hurt, Steven Adams got hurt in the preseason. Everybody was hurt. And the Grizz looked like a mash unit out there with nothing but bench players, G League players, rookies, free agent signings, us trying to do so many Google searches to find out who we got on the team today. All of that was going on. But when you think about what happened? It was the emergence of several young players. the emergence of a G.G. Jackson, the emergence of Vince Williams Jr. You know what I mean? You can't forget about what ended up being some of the diamonds in the rough that are going to help the Grizzlies in the future, and that almost accidentally helped the front office not have to make certain moves. Who would have thought that G.G. Jackson coming into what was his second year in the NBA, or first year as a rookie, first year in the NBA, looking like he did this year. 19 years old, the youngest player in the NBA, coming out, dropping big games, hitting big shots, looking like the future of the Memphis Grizzlies and the future of the NBA, to say the least. Then you talk about Vince Williams Jr. On top of that, made it to the Rising Stars game last year, a guy that's actually been around in the NBA, in the Grizzlies G League program. And who would have thought he'd come in and make the impact he made? He had several big games, became a consistent threat on the defensive end, establishing himself as a defensive force, and a guy that can hit threes, and a guy that can facilitate to others as well. So out of the darkness came a little bit of light with these two players, G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams Jr., two wings that the Grizz, you could argue, have been looking for quite a while. Now you have some solidification when it comes to those positions, and you only have to try to fill in the gaps elsewhere. You can't forget about Brandon Clark, who was injured last year, ACL injury, came back at the end of last year, looked pretty good. Then coming off this offseason, you imagine he's really going to be ready to go by the time the season comes around. So that's another big-time role player that comes back. And then we can't forget probably the most polarizing piece that's going to be added to the big three, as you see there: John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., three guys, all-star level players. But then the biggest need for this offseason, we all know what that was. That was getting a center. That was getting a big man, because we saw last year, even though Jaren Jackson, people want Jaren to play center, and I think he's going to play plenty of center going forward in spots, but he cannot be the consistent number 5 on the floor because of his lack of consistent rebounding. So what do? Do you get another center? Because we know Steven Adams is gone. He's a Houston Rocket. Do you go and you try to push through with Trey Jemison, who's a guy that they got out the scrap heap last year, 6'11", banger. I'm not knocking Trey Jemison. He can play plenty in the G League, maybe play some spot minutes here and there. That's not what you need in the starting lineup if you want to be a championship contender. If you want to be a team taken seriously in the Western Conference, you need a legitimate banger down low that can catch lobs, that can get rebounds, that can score down low when need be. Some people felt that the Grizzlies didn't even need to do anything in the draft as far as draft a big man, unless it was Donovan Clingan, or Khalil Ware out of Louisville, guys like that. But what did the Grizzlies do? They drafted the big man, Zach Edey, 7'4", 299 pounds, a force in college basketball. A man that was a 2-time National Player of the Year. A man that broke all sorts of records at Purdue and was a dominant force unlike anything that's been seen in college basketball when it comes to big men in a long time. But the interesting thing about it, despite all of that, Zach Edey was not considered a top 10 worthy draft pick. A lot of the talk was, well, yeah, he's good in college, but will that translate to the pros? Is he too big, too slow? He's not athletic enough to run with these Grizzlies. He's going to be another Hasheem Thabeet, some people said, even though the comparison is a bit ridiculous in my opinion. But with all that being said, and the question still remains, we don't know. I can't say for certain, I don't have any crystal ball or any prophecy or anything like that. But in my opinion, I think this is going to work out. I really do. I do think, in my opinion, that people are underestimating what the Grizzlies needed. I'm not saying Zach Edey's going to come in and be the next Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, any of that mess. Hakeem Olajuwon, whoever you want to say, even Dwight Howard in his prime. I don't know, man. But what I do know is the Grizz needed a big that could be competent, that can rebound, and that can set screens when need be. For John Morant, for Desmond Bane, to, do the screen and roll, do the pick and roll, whatever it is, and be competent. He doesn't need to be a star. The Grizz have enough guys that are big time that can fill in those slots. We need him to be big, be a rim protector, and rebound. Set good screens. Those are the things I want to see. I hope he can do that. We look at his highlights in college, he did that. You can find enough tape on your own if you want to see Zach Edey highlights. I mean, he was super dominant in his last 2 years in college. And the interesting thing about it, you saw how seriously he took the craft because of how measurably better he got freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. You go from averaging barely any points in his freshman and sophomore year to his last 2 seasons averaging over 20 points a game and 12 plus rebounds and blocking shots. But that's just me. And those are my thoughts on Zach Edey. I like the pick, especially we all know, despite what the Grizzlies want to say, they were trying to draft Donovan Clingan. They weren't able to do whatever they need to do to get Clingan. But I don't think they consider Edey as a consolation prize. I think they probably had the two pretty close in their evaluations and who they wanted. And I do believe the Grizz when they say they got a guy they wanted. You even talked to Zach Edey when you see his press conference. He talked about being in conversation with the Grizzlies since he was a sophomore in college. So it's not like he's a stranger to the Grizzlies and their program. He talked about how they always showed interest in him since he was a sophomore in college. I don't think that's a thing to just glaze over. They've been evaluating him for a long time. Now is the point where you say the evaluations, were they worth it? You know what I'm saying? Were they correct? And I guess we'll see. We'll see, starting with Summer League, which is coming soon, I believe next week. Summer League starts for the Grizzlies. We're going to see because he's going to be down there playing, and we're going to see what happens. But as far as throwing any aspersions or trying to say he's a bust, man, it's way too early for that mess, man. We tripping. I think a lot of the fans are tripping when it comes to the Edey pick, man. I really do. And when you look at their measurables, when you compare him to Donovan Clingan from UConn, they're pretty close. And Edey even beats him in some measurables when it comes to footwork and speed in some areas. And of course, you take the combine, you can take that with a grain of salt if you want. Who knows? But I really think this is going to be a potential success. If y'all disagree with me, feel free to let me know. That's what this is all about, man. 706-250-6252 is the number to call. If you think I'm crazy, if you think Edey is a bust and things of that nature, feel free to let me know. What's up, Vicky? Some of y'all just coming in. Appreciate y'all. We're talking NBA free agency. I went over Paul George to the 76ers. I went over CP3 to the Spurs. I went over the Knicks signing Mikal Bridges. I went over all these different moves that are being made in the offseason. And who do you think did the best job or has done the best job so far in the early going? What's up, Vicky? Again, So there's that. And this leads to my next part. When it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies, do you think the Grizzlies have done enough this offseason to still be a contender, a legitimate contender for an NBA title? Because I think the fans, if I'm reading correctly, and y'all let me know, I really believe the fans are starting to get to a point where we're tired of just being a team that's good. That we're tired of just being a team that settles for going to the playoffs, having a good effort, and going home maybe in the second round or getting upset in the first round. It seems like the fans are at the point where, okay, this Grizzlies team, they're not babies anymore. You know, a lot of these guys are getting into the middle of their career, right in the middle of their prime. We need to see a push to a title. You got a superstar in John Morant. You got a star in Desmond Bane. You got a star in Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been an all-star now. A guy that's a defensive player of the year. All of these things. When you have a core like that, you got a Marcus Smart coming off the bench who, you know, I know there were rumors about him getting traded. Looks like that probably won't happen. You never know, depending on what is out in the air. And you got a solid young core, G.G. Jackson, who came out and was tremendous, last year. As I pull him up there, G.G. Jackson, your youngest player in the NBA last year, coming out and showing that he has a ton of potential. You talk about Vince Williams Jr., another wing, a guy that showed a ton of potential. Where should the expectations be for this Grizzlies team? Let's say they don't make another move. Let's say they bring back Luke Kennard, who has the contract situation going on right now, where they turned down his option or whatever the case was. It looks like they may attempt to restructure his deal for less money. Whatever the case is, a lot of people feel like he should be traded, all of that. But before I continue, let's go to the phone lines. And I believe it's my guy Greg on the line. What's up, Greg?
What it do, Josh?
What's going on, man? I hear you clearly. There's no stuttering on my end or anything. I think we done got it solved, man.
All right. Well, look, Josh, man, good to hear from you.
Yes, sir.
Look, man, I'm gonna be brief.
Okay.
I have to admit, when Ja went out, I checked out on the season. Completely.
I don't blame you. I
checked out from everybody. I didn't watch a game with any intent to watch a game.
Mm-hmm.
And the only game I actually watched fully was Game 5 of the finals. That was it.
Wow. So you checked out of the NBA.
I checked out from the NBA. So a lot of the stuff I'm just gathering over the past, 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little confused on the whole Edie thing.
Okay.
I thought that was the lock for their pick anyway. That's what I always assumed.
No,
I mean, because you knew the other guy, other big man wasn't gonna be there.
Yeah.
You thought he wasn't gonna be there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
At
Clean.
9.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and Edie to me, and like I said, from what I thought I understood was a better pick anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a sexy pick. He was just a better pick for the team needs.
Yeah.
And that's the way I was seeing it. But then, when the pick came in and, some silly things were said, but I was kind of surprised at a little bit of the discontent about that pick,
what's interesting? That's why I put different reactions. You probably remember the day after the draft, I posted on my Facebook page different reactions from different people, negative and positive, right? And you had the dumb lady from Yahoo Sports saying, this is the worst pick in NBA history, so I give it a C. So I don't understand. So you had
Yeah.
You know,
that was I'm gonna say she was being facetious, Josh.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna give her a pass.
Okay, we'll give her a pass, I guess. I never seen it
I'm
before.
gonna give her a pass because I don't know, because if she was serious, I don't know where she came from with that. It just doesn't make any sense for her to have been serious about that. You know?
And then the surprising thing about it, you look at the comments, people are like, well, she got a good point. No, she doesn't have a good point. No.
She didn't have a point at all.
There was no point. And to me, so I'm gonna ask you this. So you got the fans kind of panicking. And not just over the pick, but also over not doing enough in the offseason. I got Bob here in the comments. He says, I think the Grizzlies are content with being who they are. Don't think they want the responsibility, basically, of being a championship contender, things of that nature. I'm of the belief that people are forgetting how good the Grizzlies were because how bad we were last year. What do you think?
Well, I mean, were they bad? That was a throwaway season, man.
It was.
That was an absolute throwaway season.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they had a bunch of, on purpose G League out there.
Yeah.
That was, by all intents and purposes, that team was poised for a deep run.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really need to change a lot. They just need to show up that center position.
That's it.
And and with Jaren can play it in relief. Maybe Tripp can play it in relief. They got everything that they need. They got shooting. They got decent enough shooters.
Mm-hmm.
No, everybody can't go out and get no Steph out there for 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
Everybody's not gonna be able to do that. You got one or two other teams in the whole league that's got a dead eye 3-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't enough. I think some people need to hide the panic button from some fans. Because when they see lack of action means lack of effort. Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there was not a lot of moves to be made, and then you go and mess with the chemistry that's already there.
Exactly.
You can't. This team is the same team for the most part. So what was the point? What would have been the point of upending all that? Like I said, there wasn't a team that just couldn't function. They had nobody to function. It was just that team was all about stitches, gauzes, ambulances, and crutches.
That's it.
That was the gist of that season. So I think they're going to be just fine. Now, can the coach? Can he bring it together and keep it together? And now that part remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But they have the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
They have the ingredients, and everybody. And like I said, the throwaway season. We will see. And I think there is some grumblings with the fans, but I think it comes from a place of this past season was a long, awful season.
Yeah.
It was long and awful.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, and even if the team wanted to tanking wouldn't have made any sense either.
Yeah, no.
Tanking doesn't really make any sense in the NBA period.
Yeah.
Because you can't guarantee that number one pick like the NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't do it.
Mm.
So do you tank or not to tank? Yeah, you rest your players when you know you ain't going nowhere. You don't go out there and kill your players.
Nah.
Absolutely. But at the same time, you still can't just put them on the shelf. They gotta still stay in shape, and all this kind of things, So yeah, I don't know, man. I think we'll be fine. I think the Grizzlies gonna be fine. I think Boston is the East right now.
Yeah,
they're the East. Period. I don't even know number two. It was like when Golden State was, in their heyday. There wasn't no number two. There was number one and the rest.
Well, let me ask you this. So you don't think the Paul George move to Philly changes things with him, Embiid, and Maxey? You don't think they're in
the past has shown us that kind of move don't always work the way they think it will work.
That's
you know, because you got to see if are they gonna be able to play together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that is the whole thing now. Ever since everybody started the Big Three, I mean, I know they're not calling it the Big Three, but that's what it is.
Yeah, basically.
You know, so you know, and it remains. Can there be cohesion? Can they be content to play with each other? You know, hopefully it won't be a disaster for them, because I would like to see somebody knock Boston off anyway.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
You know.
Same
I don't like this. I don't like dynasties in the East anyway. You know, I don't even like the East anyway. Period. So, you know.
Okay. Okay. Greg hates the East.
You know,
y'all heard it here.
I'm a hater of the East, man. I am.
You know what? I get it. But I like the Knicks. I actually, for whatever reason, I like the kind of gritty, you know, grittiness of the Knicks for whatever reason. I was rooting for them during the playoffs this year. They just kind of natural connection ended up happening. But I do get you with the rest of the East, though. I ain't gonna lie.
Man, I you know, like I said, I checked out on the NBA.
Yeah.
But, you know, I paid attention to Boston. I mean, how could you not pay attention to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was never any doubt for me whether who was going to win the title. Only team I thought to beat them was the Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
And once they went down in flames, they wasn't, shoot. If I had any intentions of watching the rest of it, that went up in smoke.
Yeah, the finals were disappointing.
So
no question. Yeah,
it was. It was. I don't want to use the word scripted, you know, because I mean that word makes it seem like, you know, there was some shenanigans afoot.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was ever any doubt to anybody who was going to win.
Nah, not at all.
I mean,
not at all.
And I'm no NBA aficionado by no stretch, but it was obvious and very clear to me, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know. And so only thing I did throughout the playoffs was really just wake up at 3:00 in the morning and check my phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, well yeah, that's what happened. That's what I thought. So I rolled back over and finished. You know. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, but yeah, man, I'm gonna jump off, man. I gotta get my night started for tomorrow.
Okay.
I gotta put some rookies to shame tomorrow on the grill. So you know.
There you go.
I gotta go in here and get my calisthenics in. You know.
Absolutely. I'm there with you,
man. Gotta get my calisthenics in.
Yes, sir.
All right, Josh. Well, look, man. I don't know how much longer you're gonna be on tonight, but I'm about to jump off, man. Cause I got to get busy.
Okay, man. Appreciate you calling, bro.
Yes, sir, man. Always good to talk with you, Josh.
Yes, sir. Same here, my guy.
Have a good night.
You too, man. All right, it's my guy Greg giving his thoughts on everything, and you can also do so as well if you got thoughts on anything we talked about. We talked about the NBA offseason. Who do you feel has had the best moves so far with all the moves that's been made and still to come as well? So we'll see. Now, let me read this comment here. This is Vicky with a good one I just saw. She said, Ja Morant's immaturity hurt the team. Hopefully they will bounce back and bring it. What do you think about Scottie Pippen Jr.? You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Vicky, because I was thinking, I know, you know, the thought is, okay, either you need to get another backup point guard that can be like Tyus Jones was a few years ago, or, you know, you just stick with what you got. It seems like what I think is going to end up happening is Marcus Smart is going to play the backup point guard position. Whether he starts or not, Ja comes out, you switch Marcus Smart to the point because he can play it, even though I don't think Marcus is a true point, to be honest with you, but he played it in college. He's capable enough handling the ball, and I think he could run what needs to be run while Ja gets his rest. But I like Scottie Pippen Jr. What I saw from him last year, you know, coming into the NBA out of the G League, I didn't know what to expect. He wasn't even on a roster. I think he was on another G League roster. The Grizz signed him to a two-way. And he comes out there and balls out immediately. Now, I don't know if it was because it was the end of the season. Maybe some of these playoff teams weren't giving the effort or whatever. But I saw in some games, man, Scottie Pippen Jr. was pretty consistent at the point guard position. He didn't look afraid at the moment. He just went right out there and balled. He reminded me of Tyus Jones in some ways. He's very good handling the ball, low turnovers. He scored in big moments in some situations last year. I'm like, I don't think the Grizz need to sleep on Scottie Pippen Jr. I don't know how seriously they're going to take it. But if he's given an opportunity, I think he could take that backup point guard position. I really do. And people are slow to believe in anybody young. It's like you see Gigi Jackson scoring and being athletic and doing all these things, or Vince Williams Jr., you see it. And I think it's almost a skepticism that comes into most fans. We're like, he's young. He's been in the G League. I don't know if I believe what my eyes are seeing. Despite the fact you've seen it over and over and over, that they're proving that they're good NBA players, you're still like, he's still a G Leaguer. But he's playing in the NBA now. So at a certain point, you have to believe what you see. And I think a lot of those guys are guys you need to believe what we've seen from them. So let's see. Frankie with a comment here. She said this was a very active off-season, and I believe the 76ers made the best moves. I can't disagree, at least right now. I think they needed a guy like Paul George. I think, it's going to make them better than just their big three being Embiid, Maxey, and Tobias Harris, who disappears randomly. All the time, Tobias Harris is a good player, but I don't think he needs to be the third option on your team. I think he needs to be lower than that, so you don't have to rely on him to do what he should do. So that's my opinion. Let's look here. Frankie also says, what do you think about Melton and Slow-Mo signing with the Warriors, man? Well, I'm a fan of both guys since they were Grizzlies. DeAnthony Melton, really, really a good player to have when you're in the playoffs. A guy that was the epitome of the old slogan, grit, grind, as you can see on my screen there. A guy that was almost like a Tony Allen 2.0 when it comes to defense and steals, hustling, stealing the ball, all that stuff, man. Except he could shoot. He's a better shooter than Tony Allen ever was. But of course, he went to the 76ers, and now he's with the Warriors. Now, Slow-Mo, I've always felt has been underrated his whole career. And it's mainly because he can't shoot to save his life or anybody else's life. But outside of that, Kyle Anderson can literally do everything else. As slow as it may be, he can pass. He can rebound. He can score down low. He's got that slick little euro. You know what I'm saying? When need be. He's not a great player by any means, but he's a really good role player to have. He's a guy that can bring the ball up the floor, who can play point forward for you if need be. And really, I heard somebody compared him on something I was watching, said he's a poor man's Draymond Green, which I think is a good comparison. Of course, Draymond is a little faster, but they do a lot of the same things. They can run the point. They make great passes. They rebound. They play good defense. Kyle Anderson, underrated defender, I think, as well, because he's so, this may sound odd, but because he's so slow, I think some people underestimate him. And he ended up stealing and pickpocketing you on the defensive end. So I think those are some good moves for the Warriors. I'm curious about the Kyle Anderson thing. Despite everything I said, it's a little, maybe he comes off the bench, I guess, when Draymond's out. He's the poor man's Draymond coming in the game. But it could end up pretty good for the Warriors. But I think they need more than that after losing Klay Thompson. So we'll see. What else we got here? We got Bob with the comment. I think I put it up. Responding to Vicky, said, John Morant, get in. Get yourself together. Time to grow up. And I think hopefully he's gotten that message at this point. Everything he's done since the last incident has been pretty positive. I've heard nothing but good things from people around him, people that have been evaluating him and seeing how he behaves. So, because there's a lot at stake, man. It is a lot at stake. You are the superstar of this team. You are a superstar in the NBA. The NBA wants Ja Morant out there because Ja is money. He's big money. On and off the court. Ja is big money. You see how his shoes are selling. He ain't even played in I don't know how long. His shoes are still selling. You know what I'm saying? So you can't minimize Ja Morant's influence on the culture, let alone on the floor. So I think he realizes that, and I think he's going to be the same Ja we know when it comes to on the floor. And that's what I want to see. Because you saw last year when he came back, his first game back, you saw in the first couple quarters, he was trying to get himself together stamina-wise. Then the third and fourth quarter, he took the game over, hit a game winner on his first game back. You can't make that stuff up. And I think coming into this season, he's going to have the biggest chip on both shoulders to prove a point. Because everybody's talking about Tyrese Halliburton and all these other guards, Tyrese Maxey, all these other big stars that are young, that are coming in the league, and that are making noise. And nobody's talking about Ja Morant as the new young face of the league. There's been many conversations. Who's the new young face of the league? Oh, it's Anthony Edwards. Oh, it's Tyrese Halliburton. It's Tyrese Maxey. It's all these other guys, maybe De'Aaron Fox, all these other players that are going to be the face of the league for the future. What about Ja? Everybody was saying that Ja was the new face of the league when he was in his prime, which he's still, of course, in his prime, very young guy, when he was at his best, doing what he did in the playoffs against Anthony Edwards, making him look foolish and hitting the game winner in Memphis, jumping on the announce table saying call 12. We forget about all that. We forget about Ja after losing to the Golden State Warriors in game 1 of that playoff series, coming back with 40-plus points in game 2 and staring Steph Curry down, talking about how fun it is and stuff like that. We forget all those things because he's been gone. You know what I mean? You forget how dynamic of a player that Ja Morant is. And when he comes back, he's going to remind the league. Don't think he ain't been watching. He's one of those guys, and I love players like that takes all of that stuff personal. Just like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or an Allen Iverson, like my guy Andre Becton said in the comments. He said, Ja is the new AI. I agree. When you talk about the culture, when you talk about the way they play. Vicky says, I think Desmond Bane is a very consistent player. I think we can count on him to have a great season. Yeah, I know Bane's ready to get back. He came back toward the end of last season as well with injury. I just need these guys to stay healthy. That's all I'm saying. Because you're talking about Ja Morant and the averages that he has. Desmond Bane averages close to 25 points a game when he's healthy. One of the best shooters in the NBA. One of the best ball handlers and attackers of the rim in the league that he's grown his game into and continuing to grow his game. You talk about Jaren Jackson Jr., and one of the things I loved about last year was the fact that Jaren took it serious when he was the only star out there for the Grizzlies. He took it serious as the number one guy. He took it serious. He took it upon himself to show people, can you be that number one guy? Can you go out there and score down low when we need you the most? Nobody else is out there. Can you really be that guy to score and to put the team on your shoulders when it needs to be? And he did it. Now, I was proud to see that. I was proud to see him go in the paint and not just shoot threes all day. Show that he has post moves that he's always had. I'll never forget his rookie year coming out of Michigan State. He showed that he has post moves. He's got footwork. Just to continue to get better at that. He's bigger, stronger than he's been. That's the things that needs to continue. And I've heard all the Grizzlies, at least the 3 stars, have been consistent in their work ethic ever since the season ended, working together, continuing the camaraderie. I'm sure they're going to get with these rookies if they haven't already and instill them into the program as well. We can't forget how good what we have is. And I think a lot of us are. See, what tends to happen, and I see it all the time, every year in any sport, and I kind of fall victim to it too as a fan. When you see all these moves being made, you see Paul George going to Philly, you see Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks, you see CP3 going to San Antonio, You see Klay Thompson going to Dallas. You see all this stuff happening. And then you sit as a fan, you panic. Why is my team not doing anything? We know we're sorry. We know we need to get some shooting. We need to get this. Oh, I'm panicking. I can't breathe. What are we going to do? Calm down. You forgot. What you saw last year was not the Grizzlies. Those were like the Baby Bears or Little Bear. I don't know if y'all saw Little Bear. I watched that as a little kid, man, on Noggin. You know, Little Bear and Frank. That was Little Bear. That wasn't the real Grizzlies. We didn't know who half those people were most of the year, other than the GGs and Vince and Scottie Pippen Jr., guys like Trey Jemison, Yuta Watanabe. You know what I'm saying? Those were guys that were starting for the Grizzlies last year. You know that's not going to be the case this year. These guys are back. Before this past year, the Grizzlies were number 2 in the Western Conference back-to-back seasons. 50-plus games, winning, championship contender, all of that. Don't forget what we got. I'm not scared of Dallas with Klay Thompson. He's what Dallas needs. And it's going to be tough, but I'm not scared of them. Now, I will say, maybe that shouldn't be the first team I bring up, because if y'all know, Dallas has actually whooped the Grizzlies over the past couple of years, ever since they got Luka Doncic. Luka has torn us up for the past 3 years. So, you know, I don't want no smoke with Dallas, but I'm still not scared of them as far as what they got. I'm not scared of Denver or Minnesota or any of these teams. We're right up there with them. They should fear us. We beat Minnesota a couple years ago in the playoffs. I think we helped them grow as a team, to be honest with you, and help Anthony Edwards get better. I'm not scared of the Lakers. They're a joke right now. Shout out to J.J. Redick, the new head coach. Shout out to LeBron. He gets to play with his son, but it seems like they can't sign nobody else. They've been trying to sign everybody. Everybody said, nah, I think I'm going to go to Washington. Shout out to Jonas Valanciunas going to Washington, former Grizz center. Clearly, he must have went there for the money because there's nothing in Washington. He's going to be irrelevant for the time he's going to be there. So what I'm saying is, as fans, I understand criticism, and I'm going to be the first one to do it if it needs to be done. But don't forget what this team is. This is a top team in the NBA. It's a team to be reckoned with. And if they play their cards right and do what they need to do when it comes to the rotation, if anything I would worry about is play calling, is the rotation. No, Vicky, Klay is with Dallas. I see you comment, Vicky. Will he stay with Golden State? He's signed with Dallas, a 2-year deal. 2 or 3-year deal with Dallas. He is a Dallas Maverick, Klay Thompson now. He's gone from the Warriors. It's shocking, but yeah, he actually left. You know? But again, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying the Grizz are going to win the title or anything. Here's my biggest question mark for the Grizzlies. Y'all may not like this. It's the coach. It's Taylor Jenkins. That's the biggest question mark. It's not the roster. It's not anything else. It's the coach. Will he consistently do what needs to be done? That's right, Andre Beckton. Appreciate you, man. With that 3 years, $50 million. That's the contract Klay Thompson got. But my biggest question is Coach Jenkins. Will he facilitate the correct playing style with what we have to win and to be a championship contender? Because I don't care how good the West is. That's what fans expect the Grizzlies to be, is a championship contender. You got a superstar now. You got 3 young stars. You got 2 more you accidentally found. You're ready. You got a veteran in Marcus Smart, which I was trying to tell people weeks ago. We don't need to jump on this bandwagon trying to get other pieces. When you forget what you got, it's pretty good. Why are you trying to trade Marcus Smart, who was with Boston, has been to the playoffs, is one of your only experienced veterans that's been through the battles? We want to trade him for. Because really, when we started getting healthy and early on in the season, he was playing extremely well. Not just the 3-point shots, but the defense. He was making a difference. Then he got hurt, broke his finger, was out basically the rest of the year. You got the team you need. Maybe you get another big. Maybe if you could trade Luke Kennard for something, him and Zaire Williams, John Conchar. I like John Conchar, but come on, man. Maybe you could dump some of those guys. Jake LaRavia. You got some pieces you can trade and maybe get something else. I'm not against that. But other than that, we can't sit here and act like this isn't a really good team. Only question I got is coaching. Taylor Jenkins, I hope he hasn't hit the wall because I feel like he did a really good job building this team because they grew together. It was his first head coaching job. The Grizzlies right in the middle of rebuilding from the grit and grind era into what you see now. He's done a good job. But there are certain things that give me red flags about him sometimes. And I hope that's fixed this year. They got some new assistant coaches. They might have a new style of playing offense. I think that's what they should do because really the Grizzlies just stand around on offense. And sometimes they almost look like they're waiting on Ja to be Superman. Don't do that. That's not just the players, that's coaching. Do you have a system? Do you have plays? Movements, move without the ball, screen, get open, get shooters open, move the ball. Be a team that looks like they have a coach instead of a team that looks like they're playing street ball. That's what they look like a lot of times. But they're so good, they get away with it. But when the playoffs come around, as we saw when we lost to the Lakers, it's going to bite you in the behind. It just is. You're talking about getting out-coached by Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham, who got fired from the Lakers, by the way. Taylor Jenkins was out-coached by Darvin Ham. I'm talking about breakfast ham. Country Ham. You know what I mean? Got out-coached by Country Ham, the Lakers head coach who got fired right after the season. Yeah, I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about the previous year when the Grizz were in the playoffs. Let's be real now. So we'll see. To me, this is a year of reckoning for Taylor Jenkins because the Grizz don't have a lot of time to waste. Don't waste these premium years of the superstar you've been looking for and this core group of young players that you've been fortunate enough to put together. Don't waste those years with a coach that might not be able to handle it. That's what I got to say about that. People complaining about all this other stuff. You know, the Grizz ain't doing enough this and that. Complain about your coach. Put the pressure on that. It's not the players. The roster's fine. Get another big man, whatever. Get another trade for a wing, whatever you want to do. The roster's fine. Look at the coach. That's where the eyes need to be. And I'm not saying throw him on the shovel yet. But right now, he's got everything he needs. I just need to see results. That's it. I don't care how good the West is. The Grizz were good before some of those other teams became good. You want to talk about a threat, I'll say Oklahoma City. But, you know, they're almost peers to the Grizzlies, if not a lot younger than the Grizzlies. So the Grizz have more playoff experience than them. And that shouldn't matter. Let me read a couple more of these here. Let's see. Andre Becton again. He said, to be honest, that's been the part over the last 10 years. 10 years to coaching. I think that's fair. What, 10 years? That's about how long Lionel has been gone, to be honest. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah. From Yeager to Fizdale to I believe Taylor Jenkins was after Fizdale. So, hey, good point. All right, Vicky says, I agree. Andre Becton says, well, in all fairness, LeBron is the coach of his team. You're probably right, man. Look, LeBron made sure Darvin Ham got fired. I don't care what LeBron says. I didn't want to be involved. Stop it. You're LeBron. You got your son on your team. LeBron, you got your little boy on your team as a teammate. Don't act like you ain't got no influence. That's what gets on my nerves with LeBron. You got all this influence. You know what you're doing behind the scenes. And I'm not knocking you for it. But come on, man. They drafted your son. You got your little boy on the team with you. And he said, I ain't got nothing to do with it. Stop it. They fired the coach. Your contract was up. And you think, look, they fired the coach. Going to the Lakers real quick. They fired the coach. And who did they hire? They hired LeBron James podcast co-host JJ Redick. They host a podcast together. And they hired him to be his coach. And you think LeBron has no input on that? I've never seen that before. We're in the podcast era. The man was a podcast co-host with LeBron talking basketball. And they just so happened to be his coach now. Now, I'm not knocking JJ. JJ has a lot of knowledge. I think he's incredibly smart. I think he believes he's incredibly smart. If you hear in the way he talks, he believes he's a basketball genius. He's smart. He could break down the game. And he also played in the NBA for, 15 years. So I can't take that away from him. He was a very good shooter. One of the best college basketball players in history at Duke. Right? Can't take that away from JJ Redick. But let's not act like LeBron didn't have something to do with that. And I think they knew from the beginning of starting that podcast what they wanted to happen. So that's my thing. Couple more comments here. What's it? Andre Beckton said LeBron is the coach of all his teams. Yeah. Good point. Vicky says, how do you think the players would do in the Olympics? Very good question. You almost forget the Olympics are about to kick off. And Team USA basketball has a pretty good team. But I'm telling you, the world is a lot better than it used to be. The rest of the world. You got Luka Doncic out here. You got Canada with Dylan Brooks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think Shai Gilgeous is in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, playing for Canada. Canada has some other good players, RJ Barrett, stuff like that. You got, and Team USA is loaded, you know. Clearly they loaded it up because they want to try to have one more run with these guys. So we'll see. But I'm interested. I'm really interested in how the basketball tournament goes in the Olympics this year. Vicky. Andre Beckton says, correct. Pull like a mule. Yeah, that's right. Let's see. He also, Andre Beckton called JJ a nobody. Oh, man. Vicky says, I like Jalen Brunson with the Knicks. I agree. Look, I really love the Knicks. They might be my second favorite team in the league. I'm a Grizz guy. But I really like how the Knicks play. I like that they're not superstar chasing. Superstar chasing gets on my last nerves. After how many times we've seen it not work. Look at the Phoenix Suns trading everything to get KD. Nothing. Look at the Brooklyn Nets. Uh-oh. I think I see a trend. Trading everything to get Kevin Durant. Nothing. Let's look at back in the day when the Knicks gave up everything to get Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo was a great player, but they ain't win jack. So many other examples I can name. I think we're learning that we need to stop superstar chasing and start building teams. Who's winning the championships now? Look at the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics are a team. They have stars, but they're a team. Look at the Dallas Mavericks. They made it through the playoffs. They have Luka, they have Kyrie, but they're a team, and they play a team system. Minnesota Timberwolves, they have their star, but they have a balanced team. The Memphis Grizzlies have John Morant as a star, but they have a team. And I think that's the new wave now, is team ball. Get good role players, get you a star or two, and make it roll. Vicky said the Sacramento Kings, yeah, even though they had a down year this year, they're a team. De'Aaron Fox, guys like that. That's what I'm saying. Robert Lee, what's up, Robert Lee? I hadn't seen you in a while. Glad to see you, man. He says, I am a Boston fan. Okay. Well, they won the title, so I know you're happy right now. Boston won 80 games this year. Not just in the regular season, but the regular season and the playoffs, I believe. 80 games. Yes, of course, they didn't go 80-2. So 80 games. Boston is the clear number one team in the league. And I'm not sure if anybody is close right now. Boston has a chance to build a rivalry, a dynasty, that is, rivalry, a dynasty. They really do. They signed all their guys back. They, they're going to be the same as they were this year. They were dominant. And they might do it again. It just depends on the matchup. But we shall see. Andre Becton says, good coaching and front office. Exactly. Vicky says she likes Boston as well. Andre Becton says, first time I want to see the women in the Olympics, women's basketball. I agree. Everybody acts like Caitlin Clark would be the only reason to watch the Olympics. Man, they got a loaded women's roster. And the rest of the world in women's basketball is getting pretty good. So we'll see what happens. You know what I'm interested in watching? And this is the last thing before I go. I just found this out randomly. And I don't know how many of y'all know this. The WNBA All-Star game is going to be the WNBA All-Stars versus Team USA. It's going to be the WNBA All-Stars versus Team USA. I love that. I think that's going to be awesome. Yeah, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese on the same team. And the Leah Bostons of the world and the Nneka Ogwumike and all these other women All-Stars against the Team USA All-Star team filled with other WNBA stars, Aja Wilson, Jackie Young, so many other players. I forget the whole roster, man. But I think that's going to be a nice look. Team WNBA versus Team USA in the All-Star game. I think it's July 20th, if I'm not mistaken. I like that. I think that's really cool. And I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, one, on the same team, and two, teaming together against Team USA, where some people felt like Caitlin Clark was snubbed. I don't. She's a rookie, good grief. But people think she was snubbed. She's got a chance to prove that she was snubbed. Playing against Team USA, dropped 40 on them in the All-Star game, then I'll agree with you that you were snubbed. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know how many points she's going to have, but it's going to be an interesting dynamic. So shout out to the WNBA, Women's Basketball Revolution, all of that, man. But that's it for me, man. There's so many comments. Y'all still comment and everything. I appreciate y'all coming in and watching, listening, wherever you may be checking me out, whether on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and more. I'm your host, Josh Midget, man, for Josh Talks Sports. This is episode 3. Be sure, if you haven't already, like my Facebook page, Josh C. Midget, and check me out there. Also, Talk Back Live with Bob and Josh on Facebook. Also, at Talk Back Live on Twitter as well. And so y'all be sure to check me out. And I appreciate all of y'all that have come in, that have watched and listened. So without any further ado, I out.